Okay, we always do laptops for students, laptops for working professional, but there's something very close, like very close to us. Video editing. And what does a video editor need?
Money.
Best laptop for video editors. Now, whenever we talk about laptops for video editing, there are many options. Should you get AMD or Intel? How much RAM do you need? Should I get a better CPU or better GPU? What would be the ideal budget? Well, the answer, this video. Because we bought 4 laptops from 50,000 all the way to 1 lakh rupees just to answer the question, which is the best laptop for video editors in every single price range. And we won't just be reading specs. Rather, we have used all these laptops, tested them, benchmarked them. So this recommendation is coming from a real practical viewpoint. This is a very good video. Let's go. But before that, this video is made in collaboration with Surfshark VPN, and fair thing, we have been personally using Surfshark before they even approached us for this video. Now, you're obviously being tracked anywhere that you browse or watch on the internet, so getting a paid VPN makes sense, and importantly for 2 reasons. Number 1, Surfshark VPN works on all websites seamlessly with good privacy, and you can even unlock content from other parts of the world that are not available in India. Here's a good video for that. Number 2, Surfshark VPN not only starts as low as 180 rupees per month, but you get unlimited device access, so you can share it with your friends and family. Now, Surfshark VPN partnered with Team TW. You can secure your privacy with Surfshark. Enter coupon code TechVisor for 4 months extra at surfshark.deals/TechVisor. And there is also a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no harm in trying. Now, to keep things simple and easy for you guys, we'll be going from less expensive laptop to the most expensive one. Also, most Windows laptops in this price range have a few things in common. You get all the necessary USB-A ports. Most laptops don't come with an SD card slot, so you'll have to buy a dongle. We'll not be focusing on these parts. Now, there are tons of laptops to choose from here, but I would recommend going for the Asus VivoBook S15 Pro. 2 reasons. Number 1, this comes with a dedicated graphics card, the RTX 3050 with 4GB graphics memory. Let me show you why that is important. So here are 2 laptops of price around 57,000. This has a Ryzen 5 5600H with RTX 3050 GPU, and this one is higher, i7 12th Gen H series CPU with integrated GPU. Now in benchmarks, i7 is faster than Ryzen 5. Obviously, however, I'll render this 4K project on both machines, and see here on Task Manager, laptop with dedicated graphics card is using both the GPUs to render. Whereas on the other laptop, there is no second GPU, so it is only using the integrated GPU. And the interesting part, on integrated GPU, it takes around 20 minutes to render a full project, whereas on the one with RTX 3050, it completed it in around 7 minutes. That is about 3 times faster. And again, we did this test multiple times, it gave similar results. So consider it as a rule of thumb. If you're buying a laptop for video editing, ensure it has a dedicated graphics card. Also, to make things simpler for you guys, we'll be rendering the same 4K project file on all the laptops that we'll talk in this video. Number 2, main reason of this laptop is the display. This Asus laptop has an OLED screen. Now I know, in the past, OLED screens were not that color accurate, but now they have matured. In fact, this laptop is actually Pantone validated and has a 100% DCI P3 color gamut. So we color graded this entire project and I had no issues. Now we have done a dedicated video on this a few days back ago. If you want, you can go check that out. That being said, the only downside with this laptop is that the RTX 3050 here is underclocked. Now for video editing, I would say it wouldn't matter that much, because again, we rendered the same 4K file against this Acer AGL. This also has an RTX 3050 but with higher TGP, and the render time was the same, around 7 minutes. So if you just want to do video editing, this is a very good option. However, if you want to do some gaming in your free time, then you can alternatively also go for the Acer AGL for the same price. This comes with i5 12th Gen H series CPU. It scores higher on Cinebench, but this doesn't have an OLED display. And at this price, you can pick only one thing, either OLED display or gaming. Now, if you have a slightly more budget to spare and you go around 70,000, then I would recommend going for this Asus TUF A50. Like for video editing, this laptop has it all. You get a Ryzen 7 7435H S series CPU. For those of you who don't know, you might know that Intel H is the highest powered CPU variant, and you might be thinking HS is the highest variant for AMD as well. H, right? Well, wrong. AMD's naming scheme is a bit different from Intel. On Intel, from low performance to high, you have U, P and then H, but on AMD, you have U, HS and then H. So AMD's HS is like Intel's P series. And on Cinebench, it scored around 12,700, plus you get 16GB DDR5 RAM, upgradable to 32GB and a 512GB SSD. And on average, it rendered the same project file in about 6 minutes. So compared to the best laptop under 60,000, this is around 15% faster. But then you wonder, will I pay 10,000 more for this Asus laptop only to get 15% speed? Like, What extra do I get? Well, this stuff performs better in complex video editing tasks like After Effects or 3D work. For example, we did a render test in After Effects and this Asus stuff was about 40% faster than the laptops under 60,000, which is a very good speed that you get for extra 10,000. And it doesn't end there. For that higher price, you're also getting a few extra bells and whistles. Like this has a 144Hz refresh rate, anti-glare display, RGB keyboard. However, there is one important thing regarding this laptop. Like here, if you see in the task manager, it only shows RTX 3050. So there is no integrated GPU here. Usually this happens in PC and this is the first time I'm personally seeing in a laptop. So in simple words, whatever you do on this laptop, it will always run on the Nvidia's GPU, which will give better performance, but it will consume a lot of power and hence battery life is very average. Like in our testing, we are getting 2 to 3 hours of battery life on heavy usage. Also, this trackpad here doesn't support tab, so you can't press. For that, you will have to use the keys at the bottom, but most editors use an external mouse, so that shouldn't be that big of an issue. Now, for 80,000, we purchased this MSI Thin 15 because on paper, this laptop seemed to have the best specs. You get an i7 13 Gen 620H series CPU, scored the highest in Cinebench against other laptops in this list. So of course, normal day-to-day stuff like writing documents, watching YouTube videos and all of that, there is no issue with that. And a special mention to the keyboard here, it is fully RGB backlit, which is nice. But mostly RGB keyboards are meant for gamers. So they have a dedicated numpad. This doesn't have a dedicated numpad, so the keys overall are bigger in size. So it feels more comfortable typing here. Also see here, the WASD has a transparent design. You can see the key switches on the inside. Looks pretty neat. Now, this also has an RTX 3050 and on video editing, this is fine for the most of the part. Like if I import any files, scrub the timeline, it is all good. However, we did notice a strange thing over here. When we ran the same rendering test, it went to 100% in around 3 minutes. But then it just got stuck. Like see here on the task manager, GPU utilization is 0. As a result, it took a total of 9 minutes to render the same file, which is surprisingly slower than the TUF. Now, this shouldn't be that much of an issue because this is probably some driver issue with Adobe or MSI and it will get fixed later with software update. Because frankly, this laptop has really good specs for the price. Alternatively, if you want a video editing laptop at around 80,000, then you can also look into Asus TUF series or Lenovo Lock at the same price point. But rather, look for these 3 things that you should check while buying a laptop for video editing. Now, I'll give you 3 guidelines when buying a laptop at any price point for video editing. Number 1, for the purpose of this video, we tested so many laptops and I would say at the same price point, AMD CPUs are around 10 to 15% faster than Intel CPUs when it comes to video editing. Number 2, avoid getting i3 and Ryzen 3 CPUs. They are meant mainly for documents and surfing the web. So for video editing, it is advisable to have a budget of around 55 to 60,000 and at that price, get minimum Ryzen 5 5th gen and up or i5 12 13 gen and up CPUs. And number 3, always ensure that you get a laptop with dedicated graphics card. Even if it is a bit older, lower spec graphic card like RTX 2050 will do, but having a dedicated graphics card is a must. Also, while 16GB RAM is enough, but if you use multiple video editing apps like After Effects, Blender, etc., get 32GB or at least get a laptop which has upgradable RAM up to 32GB. That way you can switch between 2 to 3 video editing apps easily. Now I know a lot of you will be like, Pratik, what about MacBook? And you're correct. This M1 MacBook Air sells for around 60,000 and we even ran the same Premiere Pro render test on that. Surprisingly, it rendered out the file in about 7 minutes or so, which puts this on par with the Windows laptop which we mentioned for 60,000. Plus, the speakers and battery life on the MacBook will be much better than any other Windows laptop that you get at this price point. That being said, I would still not recommend getting the M1 Air in 2024. 2 reasons why. Number 1, it only comes with 8GB of RAM, which means the more bigger or the more complex your project gets, if you add plugins, effects and all of that, and do multitasking, the M1 gets slower. And number 2, the M1 Air launched in 2019. That is about half a decade old. And if you buy a laptop right now, you want it to last for a minimum 3 to 5 years more, but then the hardware would be around 8 to 10 years old. Rather, if you do want a MacBook for video editing, you can either get the M2 Pro Mac Mini, but then you'll have to get a monitor and all of that stuff, or maybe the M2 MacBook with 16GB of RAM, but both of them will go beyond 1 lakh in price. So yeah, that was our take on the best video editing laptops. Now, we would like to hear from you guys. This is a different kind of video. Let us know if you liked it or not and tell us how we can improve this, or which laptop do you use for video editing and how's your experience. We'll pin the best comments, and this is Pratik. I'll see you in the next one. Pew, pew, pew.